This is Andy Purewal for Boxing Social in association with Betfred, and I'm delighted to be joined by Johnny Nelson over Zoom. Johnny, first and foremost, how are you doing?
I'm all right, thank you very much. It's I've more or less just touched down and got home, so just get my bearings back.
Well, I'll try not to keep you for too long, Johnny, and we'll try and work through the show very quickly and one or two other things. Let's go back to last night, though. We saw Alexander Usyk overcome Derek Chisora with a unanimous decision victory. Kind of mixed reviews on both parts over social media. How did you assess their fight and both performances?
Well, first of all, you've got to give credit to Derek Chisora's performance. I think he did a lot better than I thought, than most thought he would. Especially with the hullabaloo that was built around Usyk and the expectations that been built around Usyk. And it'll always be my bugbear that when you say, if everybody says someone's great, it doesn't mean they're great. And you've got everybody's beatable, and it looks an impossible task until it's done. In saying that, I'm still a fan of Usyk. I still love how he boxes and what he does and how he goes about it. It's a sweet science. Do I think he'll be a force to be reckoned with in the heavyweight division? Yes, I do. Do I think it can happen anytime soon? No, I don't. I'd probably give him unfortunately, he's not able to get out very often. Remember, he's not boxed for a year, but everybody else hasn't. But what I'm saying is, you've got to give him time. I know he's WBO mandatory for Anthony Joshua. I don't know how that'll work out. If I were here, if I was his people, I'd get him a couple of more heavyweight fights first, just to get him used to what weight he wants to be. And dealing with the big guys. I think when he fought Derek, that was a good learning lesson for him, because he realised he can't get rid of them that easy. They're going to pressure you and they're going to keep you under pressure constantly. And Derek's past his best. So Usyk coming up against a heavy, live, young, fresh heavyweight that can bang as well as take a shot, that's where he's going to learn. But he's going to learn like Holyfield did, like Mora did, like a lot of guys did when they stepped up to heavyweight. So give him time. I've probably been one to criticise this morning. Not criticise, I've probably... I've criticised. I've basically said he's good, but it was nailed on that he'd be the heir apparent. But now I don't think it's nailed on. But I do believe it's a very, very possible.
If you use Alexander Usyk last night, what do you take away from that fight? Do you think he should take comfort from knowing that he's obviously been in there with a live opponent in Derek Chisora, who's established as a heavyweight, a fully fledged heavyweight, who's very hard hitting? Or do you think he'd be disappointed that he couldn't make more of a statement? Certainly when Derek seemed to gas around those middle rounds, or seemed to tire at least, that he never maybe looked to make good of that.
Well, Usyk even made an assessment of himself. Out of 10, he gave himself 3. He wasn't happy with his performance, which tells you a man thinks there's a lot more left. He could have done a lot better. And you can bring that to 1 or 2 things. But I just think for Usyk, he's done that. He's got to go on with all shapes and sizes of heavyweights to get comfortable for where he is. He came in at 15-7. I personally thought... the way he fights, I thought it might be a bit heavy. Because unless he's going to compete with these guys for strength and punch power, why pile all the weight on? Fight at a weight where you're comfortable at, where you can generate some power, and then everything's in your favour. We just got to wait and see how he grows into that, how comfortable he is. So I don't think he should criticise himself too much, because he just stepped up to the heavyweight scene. I do think if they're talking about getting him in with Anthony Joshua next, or within a year, I'd just wait, be patient, because he is a very, very good talent. But you've got to be patient with him.
I was going to say, with Alexander, who would you like to see him in with next? We know he's a WBO mandatory, but firstly, AJ's got to face Pulev and then see what happens there. And then there's talk about that AJ Fury fight happening next year. If you're Alexander, who do you step in with next? I spoke to David Price and he mentioned two names. One which might surprise you, but he said Joe Joyce he'd be interested to see him with Alexander, who have fought as amateurs, and Andy Ruiz Jr. certainly is a name which I'm sure many people might mention over the coming months. But who would you like to see Alexander in with next?
So Usyk's early 30s, I think it's 32, 33. So Usyk's got to make sure every fight means something and contributes to him as an individual or his development as a fighter or sets him one step closer to a world title. So he's got to make sure. So say for instance, number one, I'd fight a fighter that has been in the mix, that has touched almost that's touched heavyweight opportunity, like Ruiz. Joe Joyce is a good one, but he beat Joe Joyce comprehensively. So I'm not sure what you're proving there. And the props that you get from that, I don't think you get much props from it. So he's better off fighting a former champion or a former challenger. And I mean, when I say former, I don't mean like 15 years former. I mean just former. And then it'll show you where he stands amongst the elite when it comes to heavyweight division. So future opponents have got to be picked tactically, and then doing it that way, you'll make sure you capitalise on every day he's got left in our sport.
We saw Anthony Joshua in attendance last night. If you are AJ and if you're in AJ's shoes and you watched Alexander last night, what's your thoughts? What do you think AJ would have taken away from that?
Usyk is a mover. He's not strong enough to he's not strong at the moment. If he went in with an athletic, big heavyweight, that's taller, that's longer, that's sharp, that's fast. He was in there with a shorter, heavier heavyweight, and he gets hit. If I was Anthony Joshua, I'd keep an eye on him, but I wouldn't think I've got to avoid that kid. Whereas I actually thought that before. With AJ and Usyk, I thought just give this boy a bit of a sidestep. But I actually think he doesn't have to. He could actually. I think he'd be comfortable with the situation.
Where does Derek go from here?
Wherever he wants. He didn't create a good account of himself. I'm quite sure heavyweights out there are going to think, right, this guy's just gone the distance with a former unified WBO champion, now heavyweight contender. So Derek could be a great scalp or stepping stone. So the fight's there for Derek. But I just think for Derek, he needs to... the world's his oyster. The world's his oyster. And it depends on how much he wants it and what he wants to do next.
Just touch on some of the other fights on the card, Johnny. George Kambosos Jr. overcoming Lee Selby. How did you see that one? What was your thoughts on it?
We had the pace of youth catching up with time. Lee Selby, I actually did think that towards the end he'd probably fade because he's not the fighter he was, and he's still putting a good account of himself. He boxed pretty well, but I just think if you'd have done this fight 3 years ago, I'd have said Lee Selby every day of the week. But time has caught up on him. But it was still a good performance. You had the IBF number 3 and number 4 fighting each other. I know the aim is Teofimo Lopez, but I think they did account of each other. I think it was just father time catching up on people. That's all it is. And when I say that, it sounds like Lee's like past it. He's done. He needs his walking stick and wheelchair. No, I just mean when you come up against a young, fast, fresh fighter with pace, then they all of a sudden they'll highlight the corners that you've had to cut as you get older.
How do you think Kambosos would fare against Teofimo Lopez, having watched obviously George last night and then Teofimo a couple of weeks ago?
Of course, Kambosos wants that. He's shouting that out. Of course he wants that. But Kambosos, but Lopez is in a great position because he's the man. So he'll look at business. He'll look at pleasure. He'll think, does that work for me financially? I think Lopez is a big shout for him, but I don't think he'll happen next. So I don't think we should worry about that yet.
Another fight to touch on, Savannah Marshall with a very, very impressive
Yes.
victory over Hannah
Yeah.
Rankin. Somebody I know you was very happy to see do so well as well.
Yeah.
Just reflect on her win for me, Johnny.
I'm so happy for her. Proud of her. Love the union her and Peter Fury have together. I think Peter Fury is a perfect man for her because he's no nonsense, very matter of fact, and gets the best out of her. Very proud of her, well deserved, and it's about time. I know this girl's put a lot of hard work in, shed a lot of tears and sweat for a sport that's probably been unfair to her much since she turned pro. But now she can actually be in a position where she becomes a 2 or 3 ranked world champion.
If you was Clarissa Shields watching Savannah Marshall last night, what do you think she would have taken away from that?
Clarissa, as I said, as I say, the only loss on Clarissa's record, amateur or pro, is Savannah. If Clarissa fancies it, she'll think, you know what, I've got to right this wrong. I've got to twist this around because they're always going to bring this girl's name up. Savannah now has something to bargain with and something to play with. So Clarissa's she can't ignore her.
One more fight on the card I just want to touch on before we move on to a couple of other topics, Johnny. Tommy McCarthy picking up that European title immediately after winning his fight. He's obviously calling out, world champions at cruiserweight. How do you think
that's a bad move. I think Tommy McCarthy still has a lot of growing to do mentally. I think a lot was expected from Tommy when he turned pro, and he under-delivered. After watching him last night, I actually thought, now I understand what's going on. I actually thought he was lazy to start with, but he's not. He's just very laid back. You can't afford to be like that in the first 4 or 5 rounds of a professional fight at world level, because you'll be found wanting, and emotionally, mentally, it will break you. Someone's on you and on you and on you, not really give you breathing space. Listen, if you shout the big fights now, you might get them in 18 months' time. So I think that's not wrong with him doing that, but he needs to because he's got the European title, he needs to get some more character building, some more belief in himself, and more urgency in how he works in his tactics when he gets in the ring.
just away from that card, Johnny? I don't know whether you've seen it yet or not, but
I haven't seen it yet, man. I've recorded it. I've just walked in my house. Are you on about the fight last night?
yes.
No, I haven't seen it yet.
So you
So
don't
don't
want me to
mess me
say
up.
anything?
I've done well. Let's leave that. I ain't seen it
Okay,
yet.
I will leave that one. I won't give anything away. But to touch on something away from kind of the fights, a different video was released last night. I'm sure you've been made aware of it or have been asked about it already. Deontay Wilder releasing a video accusing Tyson Fury of glove tampering and cheating in their second fight in Las Vegas. Just firstly, your thoughts on Deontay's video and his comments, Johnny?
Well, I saw that while we are actually doing the show, in between fights, of course, last night. And I was gobsmacked. The show called Flush. I thought, what is he doing? Because a lot of things that have been said for why he lost have never come directly from him. And I've always said I want to hear the questions and see his first interview, and hear what. And I gather he's done an interview with some media setup. I've got to see it. I've got to see what questions they asked him or what questions they were allowed to ask him, because some of the statements he's coming out with are beyond ridiculous. And so, for instance, let's talk about the obvious. The glove, for instance. He showed on this video the captain pulling the glove, and it showed a part where the glove hit him like that. So he ever got. So he's basically he's insinuating that somehow Tyson Fury turned his hand into a fist where the glove was there. So and hit him where the lace part of the glove was. That's nearly impossible. He might have got a bitch slap. He might hit him like bam, bitch slapped him. But I think it's nearly impossible. Secondly, you've got to remember the first fight, it was a 60% Tyson Fury got in with Deontay Wilder and did what he did. Second fight, he wasn't just the punches landed, it was the beating he took. He was comprehensively outboxed, out manhandled and punched. So how's he explain being manhandled? How's he explain being outboxed? Thirdly, when he's talking about the likes of crab and bucket mentality, I think he referred to the referee as that. Only a few people know what he's talking about there. Don't chat foolishness. That's That's a chip on the shoulder paranoia foolishness. Number 4, he said something in regards to Mark, the departure of Mark Breland.
Disloyal, and he feels like he was involved in some way for his downfall on the night.
Yeah, exactly. So this is a man that to me is full of delusion. He's not accepting responsibility of his role in him losing when he was in the ring. And so when Mark Breland saved him from being finished flat on his face, and they'll say, well, you never know if that was going to happen. It was going to happen. Sometimes we fighters have to be saved from ourselves. He saved him. I don't know what's happened behind closed doors. I'm guessing Mark Breland said, yo, you don't want to get back in with Tyson Fury yet. You know, get a couple more fights. Don't do that yet. That's not what we want to hear. Or I'm guessing that he's pissed off that Mark Breland pulled him out. Said I could have come back. You know, you live to fight another day doing what Mark Breland did. So for him to say Mark's being disloyal, from what I saw, only from what I saw, Mark Breland is the wisest head in that corner. Mark Breland was the one that's trying to teach this guy how to be a better boxer, not a fighter, because he can bang, a better boxer. And it's going to take time. It takes time to do that. If he don't appreciate that and he don't see that and he's saying he's disloyal, this man's still delusional. And number 5, whatever number we're on. So so eventually he's now opened his mouth to say, I can't believe you're not waiting for me to fight me again. So what? So all this time when Tyson Fury and his camp have been waiting for this fight, waiting for the date, which should have happened this month or next month, and it's been quiet, they've heard nothing back. As soon as Tyson decides to go to somebody else's dance, Deontay Wilder saying, yeah, you're being disloyal. Well, yeah, I'm the king. This sounds like a man that actually has lost touch with reality in regards to saying, you know, this is what I want. You do what I want, and I want you to wait for me until I decided to answer you and give you my opinion on when we fight or how we fight. That ship's gone. You ain't in that position. You're now in the queue like every other heavyweight. And unfortunately, he's in the who needs him club. Because now he's lost that spot. He's now in a position where, unless he's got something, people won't fight him because he hits too hard. He bangs too hard, so the risk is too high. So therefore, he's in the who needs him club. And so he's got to scratch your back again like everybody else. Every other former champion or other contender that's in the top 10. The luxuries have gone, my brother. They've gone. But he's talking like he still has a choice. He's still in the dance. That dance gone. So no matter what he says about Tyson Fury, if it's for publicity to get himself back in the mix because he's now ready to talk, he's now ready to deal with stuff, then I get that. But if it's something that he really believes in, how he's talking, then I don't get that. You know, because why didn't someone ask him about the bicep injury? Why not excuse? Why didn't somebody ask him about the costume excuse? Why didn't somebody ask? So he needs to be in an interview where he cannot tailor the questions that are given to him. And I have a funny feeling. I haven't seen it, so if I'm wrong, I apologize. I have a funny feeling certain questions weren't asked. And that's why when I've seen the likes of you guys and Coogan, I said, if you get a chance to ask, to interview Deontay Wilder, don't bottle it. Ask the questions. And so I'm going to hunt it down. I've got to see. In fact, someone sent it me anyway, but I'll have a look at it.
Johnny, just to move away from that, one more topic I just want to touch on, something which I know would probably be a little close to you, a little hard for you to kind of seen it all unfold, but with Kell Brook, is the whole negotiations period with Terence Crawford, and then before that with Eddie, and obviously Dominic Ingle saying he's not going to be in his corner. Just kind of what's your thoughts on that entire situation leading into obviously Crawford Brook?
I can't be hypocritical. If I think something's going to happen, it's going to happen, and I know that the talent, the ability of Kell Brook and what he's capable of doing. I also know, which I said publicly, I don't know how he makes welterweight, makes the weight. and he makes the weight, but it doesn't mean you'll be able to tie your shoelaces to perform to the best of your ability when you do make the weight. I think a combination of a few things. One, that is that down the weight. Two, that he's left a person that I think will be the only person that gets the best out of him. And I think it was a bad move in such a big fight. And so in doing that, I think in fighting Terence Crawford, I know what Kel was capable of doing. I don't know what he is capable of doing anymore. But the way it was going, I believe that it's going to be a tough night for Kel, bro. Not an impossible task. It's going to be a tough task.
Some people over social media suggesting that this is kind of just Cal looking to take the money and then retire on a big payday.
Well, Cal's not
going
to acknowledge or admit to that, if that is the case. I do remember, I'm sure it was over a year and a half ago, that he said I've probably got a year left in this sport. So that's probably why they've come to that conclusion. But that's then insinuating that Cal's going to go and fight, give his all for 4 rounds and jump. So it's not explained that if he wins, he'll box on and carry on. Cal, he's a professional. I think his pride won't let him think that way. So when he gets in the ring to fight, he's going to give it his all. And if his all isn't good enough, then he's done. So he's taken a calculated gamble in regards to that. I see why people are saying what they're saying. But if you were Cal, wouldn't you do the same? Wouldn't you take the fight and say, right, I'm going to give my all? If this ain't good enough, then it's time for me to check out.
Johnny, we'll leave that there now, and I'll leave you to enjoy the rest of your Sunday. Hopefully there's no more boxing talk involved for yourself and your own time. It's appreciate you giving up some time. Thanks, Speed to Boxing Social.
Take care, brother. Take care.